review. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. He's my feature author the month of June, award winning author, no other than Mr. Mark Sarvas.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Welcome to Book 101, Mr. Mark. And can you please introduce more about yourself?
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you for having me. It is a pleasure to be here. I am the author of three novels right now. Um, my first novel, my debut, is a book called Harry Revised that came out in 2008. My second novel, Memento Park, which was the winner of the American Book Award, came out in 2018. And my new novel, Ugman, it's an interesting title, I know, is coming
Ugh.
out. It's coming out in June, at the end of this month, on June 24th. And I don't know if you have listeners in the Los Angeles area, but we'll be doing a launch at a great independent bookstore in Los Angeles called Diesel Bookstore. So if anyone hears enough that makes them interested, we're always welcome and happy to see people at the launch.
Indeed, the last support, Mr. Mark Sarvas. And thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. And today, let's talk about being you, award winning author. What does being award winning actually change for you internally?
Well, it gives me a nice little plaque to put up on the wall there. So that's
Awesome.
changed. There's that little black plaque is the plaque that I won for the American Book Award. There were also two or three others. Beneath it is the AJL Fiction Award, and there were some other books that I was shortlisted for. Um, does it change anything? Well, it is. It is certainly a nice thing to put on your website, on your resume, and your email signature. Perhaps people look at it a little bit differently. I don't know, but I suspect what it does. It is it's a validation. It's a nice kind of validation of having worked hard and for many years. And the book that won the award took me a long time to write. I spent about um, 6 or 7 years writing that, so put a lot into it. And to receive an award like that is it means that it's not just me and my family who liked it, but that it meant something to other people as well. So it had some very
The
nice blurbs on it, um,
yes.
from the likes of Salman Rushdie and Joseph O'Neill and Minjin Lee. So it was a book I was certainly very proud of. I'm proud of all of my books, but that was nice to see the attention that book received.
Indeed, a truly validation that people like your writing. Winning a major awards can sometimes intensify imposter syndrome. Have you experienced this, Mr. Mark?
Well, I think my imposter syndrome is pretty intense all the time. So I don't know. I don't know that it got any more intense. Yeah, I suppose the 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 funny story I can share along those lines is that when I won the award, when I received the word rather that I had been given this award, I jumped on Google, and my girlfriend wanted to know what I was looking up, and I explained that I was sure there had to be a lesser a less prestigious American Book Award somehow, and that was the one that I had won. I hadn't won the real one. So and in fact I had won the real one. But yes, that imposter syndrome is, I think, something probably that all writers grapple with in some form, because there's this idea that people somehow care about what you think. You have to think that in order to write a book. You have to believe that there will be people who will care, who will want to read it. And that's a slightly I won't say arrogant stance, but it certainly, you have to have some healthy self-confidence to start from that position. And I think it's human along the way if you feel that certainty, that confidence gets shaken a little bit, like, oh, wait a second. um, maybe people are not as interested as we hope they are. So yes, I think most writers live with some form of that all the time. So
Congratulations again, Mr. Mark, and looking forward for more and more accolade. Does winning a prestigious award feel more like pressure to outperform yourself or permission to take greater creative risks?
oh, that's a great question. I think that I don't know that it feels like pressure, added pressure, in that for me at least, that writing these books is always, there's always an aspect of pressure to it. Pressure of, will my agent be able to sell it? Will an audience want to read it? Is anyone going to review it? So I feel like that pressure is always there. Um, I think, and I think permission, uh, which my new book, Ugman, very much acts out on, and takes advantage of a certain kind of permission, comes instead, I think, with levels of age and experience. I feel like the more you do it, the longer you do it. I've been writing novels now for rather a long time, and I've been teaching novels, the UCLA Writers Program, for since 2009. And I think that that's where the permission, as you say, to take risks, to do different things, can come from. So it really, it varies. I think that when I won the award, we went to this nice ceremony up in San Francisco, and I felt all puffed up and proud of myself for a few days, and then it was back to work. Then suddenly, okay, the echoes of the award ceremony are gone, and I'm looking at the blank page of the next book, and I have to get to work. And very quickly, that floods out anything else that you're thinking about. So.
Mr. Mark, awards often spotlight a moment, but your journey involved years of unseen work. What one crucial, unrecognized struggle or turning point that was vital to getting you there?
mm, well, this may this may sound like a canned answer, and I don't mean it to, but this is what I tell my students all the time. Um, my writing life is a direct reflection on my reading life, and it they cannot be separated. And the novels that I'm able to write are the product of the lifetime of reading, and dozens of years and thousands of novels, reading and thinking about the novels, not just reading them to knock them off and check off Goodreads and have a big number of, look how many books I've read, but taking my time with what I read, thinking about them, trying to understand what the author intended, what they were trying to do, what are the techniques that they used. And with each of the books I've written so far, with all three of those novels that are up on your screen, there was a specific book or author that inspired me directly, that I was thinking about and really in conversation with, that allowed me to move forward. With my first novel, Harry Revised, I was really responding to Zadie Smith and how impressed I was with her energetic prose in her debut novel, White Teeth. Memento Park kind of nods very heavily toward John Banville, who's my favorite living author, and a novel of his called The Book of Evidence. And the homage there is pretty strong. And the new book, Ugman, is actually an updated, modern retelling of Dostoevsky's Notes from Underground. So in each of these cases, there's a moment where I connect with a specific book, and I'm like, yeah, that's the book that has shown me the way to do my own book. But then your work is your own work. It's not copying or imitation. I'm not trying to do those things, but I'm looking to those books in terms of what they can show me on the journey of getting my story told. So,
Mr. Mark, how do you reconcile external validation with your own internal metrics for what makes a book truly successful to you?
well, this is something neither my agent nor my publisher will be too happy to hear me say this, but to a certain extent, I don't care about the external validation anymore. I mean, maybe when I was with my first book, particular, like, oh, I have to make a splash, I have to get some attention, but I don't. I just, I see too many other writers I know, um, either personally or writing out on the internet, who they're so consumed by the success of others that their own success is never quite enough. And it's like, oh, I didn't get this award, or oh, I want to get this, this public publisher. And I think for me, that sense really comes from, um, did I nail it? Did I get the book right? Ugman in particular, my most recent book, very difficult book to find a home for, because it's a very strange, although I think very funny and very timely book. We'll talk about that, I suppose, more in our next session. But it was a very difficult book to find a place for. But but I knew it was a good book. I knew I had done what I wanted to do with it. My agent loved it. And, we were just sort of dealing with whatever the climate this week in the publishing industry is. And you cannot base your self-worth as a writer on something like that is so constantly shifting, from one week, one month, one year to the next. So don't get me wrong, be happy to have a New York Times bestseller, but I don't stay up nights weeping about the fact that I don't. So because I am proud of the work that I'm doing.
Very well said, Mr. Mark. Beautifully articulated. How has your actual writing process, your rituals, discipline, self doubt management evolved since receiving a major recognition?
Um, Again, changed. I don't know that it's changed or evolved that much because, um, so the thing I can tell you about the book that won the award, Memento Park, is that it was my second novel, but it was actually my first idea for a book. And I chose not to write it first because I knew I wasn't good enough yet. I had ambitions for the book, and I had no experience. And so I put that one aside and came up with my starter novel, if you will, which was Harry Revised, which had a great run. It was published in more than a dozen countries around the world. I have all the international copies of it sitting right over there. You've got the French copy up on your screen. Um, but by the time I rolled into Memento Park, I had a pretty established way of approaching and thinking about my work. And that hasn't changed. And because, again, as I tell my students, what really matters is consistency. And I found that it is much more important to write a little bit every day than to write a lot once every 2 or 3 weeks. You need to maintain this momentum where the book is alive in your head from day to day to day. And I've done that, and I've done that really quite a lot. I suppose where that has changed a little bit now in the book I'm writing now, which would be my fourth novel, is because of the award. Um, I may be more attractive to certain writing residencies. And for the readers, your listeners who don't know, a writing residency is basically a place you go for anywhere from 2 to 6 weeks. Sometimes it can be longer, 3 months. And they give you a room and a roof over your head, and at the nice ones, they even feed you, and they just leave you alone to sit and to write your book. And this year, so far, I have done 2 residencies, one in Sonoma County up here in California, and the second one in the spring in the southwest of France. And I'll do a third one later this year in Virginia at VCCA. So, and it is very possible that in my applications, when they see that I'm an award winner, that they may receive my applications with a little more interest. So I suppose that their advantages there potentially in terms of doors, different doors that get opened.
Indeed. Mr. Mark, does the genre you write in a carry specific expectations or biases in the awards landscape? How do you navigate that?
Well, that's a complicated question. And so first of all, the genre, my genre, insofar as there is one, is what we call literary fiction. You know, which jokingly we say it's fiction that has no plot, but that's not really true because I'm a plot forward literary fiction writer, and all of my novels to date have had strong stories, but they're characterized by more of a focus on language, i.e., at the sentence level, and character work. And so there's a certain pool of awards that are given out for that, but I don't think about it at all because you can't. I mean, you truly can't. The minute you behave as though you are writing with an award in mind or toward an award and to get an award, you can't think, oh, all right, now, the National Book Award really wants to see historical stories, so I'm going to write historical. You can't do that. You can't game the system, and books take too long to write. And by the time your book comes out, whatever it is you thought was the trend of the moment will be different anyway later. So it doesn't matter. This is a real one of those cases where I say to people, don't think about. I tell my students, don't worry about who you think your agent is going to be or who you want to pitch or what house you're going to publish with. Think about your story. The only thing you should be thinking about are the pages that are in front of you, and am I nailing this? Am I getting this right, or you know am I not quite there yet? And whatever, you know from one year over the next, there may be certain trends in how awards are given, or but but I don't think that it doesn't matter that much to me. And like I said, I don't think it behooves a writer too much to think or worry about that. You have to worry about doing right by the story that you're trying to tell.
Does readers or do readers approach your award winning book differently?
Oh, that'd have to be a question for readers, obviously, and not for me. Uh, but I will say I have not seen, I have not seen an Amazon review that begins, "How did this crummy novel win an award?" So whatever, if they are aware of the award, it doesn't seem to be skewing them one way or another. So, but that is an interesting question. I don't really know. I know myself as a reader, if I pick up a novel that has won the Booker Prize, I have a certain expectation about what I'm going to find in that book. But I also know from having myself been on award juries and having given book awards that they change year over year. And so that there's no real consistency because each selection of judges is random. And you can look back at the Booker Prize and see some pretty embarrassing, book selections over the years where I would read it and say, "Holy crap, I can't believe this thing won an award." So possibly there are people out there saying that about me. I don't know.
Well, Mr. Mark, as an award winning author, what are your short term and long term goals?
They're the same, just to keep turning out novels until I drop dead. Um, that's kind of it. I've got a certain amount of time on this rock of ours, and I have a number of stories very much that I still want to tell. And I'm not a fast writer. I wish I was. And so my time and attention now are just about get the next book written, take a little breather, and get the next book written. Fortunately, I have a great agent. I have a lot of great support around me and encouragement to keep doing that. So um, that's that's both my short and my long term, to get as many books, quality books, written as I can. I'm not interested in being one of those writers who puts out one book every year or one book every 2 years. I just I would rather take the time to get it to my standards and then put it out and write the next one. So
Quality books indeed, Mr. Mark. Before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people, my other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, and of course my book 101 review in fifth season too, comedy 101 in sixth second season, and food 101 in the fifth season as well, geography 101 in fourth season, and my baby podcast Law 101 and Mental Health 101, Love Letters in third season, and Movie 101 review and Music 101 in its fourth season, and Science 101 and Sex 101 in each fourth season. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. Mr. Mark, what at least obvious piece of advice you will give to a talented writer focused on creating a meaningful work rather than chasing awards? Like,
Um, yeah, great. I mean, this will come as no surprise to any of my students if any of them are,
yes.
are watching. It is read great fiction, but with a pen in your hand. Don't be afraid. Read a book, mark it up, engage with what the author is doing, and think about. Here, I can show you very quickly. This is an example of one of the books that I'd mark up when I'm doing my research for a novel I'm going to write. And this is the way I think about what other authors are doing, because other authors and their published books, things don't get there by accident. They get there by purpose, by discipline, and by arranging. And I think if you can understand how another writer makes their choices, then you will make better choices yourself. And then the other thing I just say is write 2 pages a day. Everybody can do that. 1 page a day, you can't really get a head of steam going, and 3 pages can already start to feel like a lot for some people. 2 pages a day, even if you've got a full-time job, even if you're a parent, even if you're this, you can get 2 pages a day written, and at the end of 5 or 6 months, you'd have a draft of a novel, which is a first draft is a starting point. You don't have to know everything to start, and you don't have to solve everything in a first draft. The first draft just shows you the possibility of what your book can become, and then in revision comes the real work. So I hope that helps.
Mr. Mark Sarvas, thank you so much for your advice. My feature author of the month of June, award winning author. Please support him. And Mr. Mark, kindly please invite our listeners to support all your books.
Thank you. Yes, please, Ugman in particular. If you would jump on and pre-orders really make a great difference to authors and their publishers, especially independent publishers really live and die by pre-orders. So if anything I've said in here is at all appealing, please jump on to the website of your choice and place a pre-order for Ugman coming June 24th.
Yes, people, tune in for our next episode because we're gonna talk about Augman. Mr. Mark, thank you so much for your time and looking forward for more and more and more award-winning piece.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you for having me.
More to come, people. See you soon.